Hello and welcome to another beautiful Sunday on the Heart to Heart podcast with Mike and Shiko. Yes, we're back. I know a lot of people have been asking us, hey, what happened last Sunday? There was no episode, etc., etc.
Last week, there was just so much happening with the reject finance bill that our hearts were just so heavy, our minds were not settled, so we would just not be able to sit down and focus and record. So we decided to take a week-long break, but now we're back.
So now we're back, and yes, by the way, for those who are wondering, I reject the finance bill as Mike.
Strongly reject the
You also reject the finance bill?
Yes.
Okay. That being said, for those people who have been participating in this struggle and in this movement, big congratulations and shout out to our Gen Z members of society. Millennials also are a big part of it. For me as a millennial, I see them and I can say, by the way, great job, kudos.
And now what people are saying, what we are saying is now it's not just about Gen Z. It's a Kenyan movement.
It's a Kenyan movement.
We are all affected. So we're just praying that nothing goes left.
So with that being said, don't forget, of course, we are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all other podcast hosting platforms that you can find. Just look for Heart to Heart with Mike and Shiko. Not forgetting YouTube. Plus, if you do want to drop us an email, you can do so, mikeandshiko@gmail.com, and let us know what you think about the podcast, or if you have anything you'd like us to touch on, we'd be so happy to do so.
Yes.
We started off at Genesis. We are now in the book of Joshua.
Yes, we are.
What's the message in the book of Joshua?
I think the main theme in Joshua is the fulfillment of a promise that God made to the Israelites. And so because they were obedient, God fulfilled his promise, which was that they entered finally into the promised land.
So basically they get to the Canaan. Yeah. By the way, Gen Z, when you get to Canaan, we are the generation who wandered the wilderness.
We were made to wander the wilderness.
But yeah, that being said, promises and fulfillment of a promise. I believe this is something that's really important, I believe, also in relationships, where your word means something. There was a time rather back in history where a man's word was as good as, you can take it to the bank, basically. If someone said, I promise I will do certain things, and they would literally shake on it, and it's expected. And in fact, if you are a person who did not keep your word, you are looked at as a scoundrel, as someone who is not necessarily good to do business with or good to be in a relationship with. But nowadays, I feel a lot of relationships are built on shaky foundations of half-truths and non-truths. And so promises are made that are never actualized.
And just like you're saying, I think it's so important for your word to mean something. And I think especially for men, the phrase being a man of your word should mean something.
Yes.
And the worst thing is to be in a relationship with someone, as a woman, to be in a relationship with someone who is not a man of his word. So he will say something like, we're going to do this. Or I'm going to do right by you. Or even in his own planning, men who are just dreamers. They say a lot of things. Oh, I'm going to be rich. I'm going to do this. But there's no substance.
What is it that for you as a woman tells you, when a guy is talking to you? Because I heard women can tell. You guys can listen to a guy make a bunch of promises and be like, oh my God, that's just an airhead. He's just speaking.
Exactly. When you're doing too much. There's some guys who do too much.
Yeah.
And you start to think, you sound a little bit scammy.
Yeah.
I remember one time when I was in the streets, there's this guy who I met and his stories were just so extra. He's on a business trip and he's asking me where can he buy a warm coat because he's in Russia, and then the next minute he's in Tokyo, and then it's I wanna believe you, dude. And in the beginning you're like, okay, you're in business, you're doing your thing, but then the lies start to sound, his investors are coming and they're investors from Sri where and there's Saudi Arabians now in the mix, and it's just doing too much. Or I'm gonna take you out on a date, but I'm traveling, but you're always traveling.
I can tell you why a lot of men try and oversell, right? We do it because we're scared that if I don't oversell, you will end up with someone who can actually do it.
I'll leave.
Yeah, you leave. Like, you won't see me anymore.
But then what's the end game? Because eventually the lie is going to come out.
That's very true.
So then what is the point?
You know, it's kind of like a thing a lot of men do where they say, we'll deal with that. You know, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. And so you find, I can give you an interesting story of a friend of mine I know. And I don't agree with what he did. However, for him, it worked out okay. He met this girl and he liked this girl and he kept on pursuing this girl. But he noticed that this girl was not giving him the kind of attention that he wanted. And she used to give other guys, you know, within their circle attention. Like, she'd be there if she sees a guy with a car, like, you know, she's so excited about it and everything. So he lied. He used to do things like he'd borrow my car.
Oof.
And then tell this girl that it's his car. And then he would tell this girl things like, you know what, I want to take you on vacation somewhere like to Europe. We need to go do a Euro trip. He would tell her things like, oh, I'm working on buying you a very expensive something, whatever it will be. And this woman started giving him that kind of attention because now, you know, he's saying everything she wants to hear. But one day what happened was this girl actually ended up busting him and saw the real him. And because I was using my car, I went to a certain joint. She happened to be there, and then when she saw the car, she was asking me like, hey, where's so and so? I'm seeing his car, he's here.
And you're like,
I was like, at that time I didn't know he had lied. I used to think he was borrowing my car to take her out. That's what I knew.
But saying it's not.
But saying it's his, I did not know that. And so I'm like, what do you mean his car is here? But there it is. And I was like, no, that's my car.
Oh my God.
And then she was so shocked. What do you mean it's your car? I'm like, yeah, it's my car. And she let it go at that point. But I think that was the seed that was, you know.
Because then she'll start questioning everything else.
What about everything?
So in that situation, it's like I'm saying, what was the end game there? Eventually she would find out. Let's say you get her. Fine. Now she's your girlfriend. So now she's wondering, what happened to the car that he'll keep on borrowing? Like, there needs to be an end game. You can't lie forever.
When she finally found out the truth, and of course for a few months he blamed me and told me that, Mike, why did you say that? You should have. I told him I didn't know you said that. I mean, if you did say that, I would have kept up the lie, but I didn't know. So but he came out clean. So he asked me for advice and I told her, just come out clean. Tell the girl I don't have a car. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment. I don't have the monies to be able to give you the things that I can promise you. But if you can give me the benefit of doubt and give me time to work on myself, I promise you I can be the man that you want.
Did she?
She did.
Oh.
Not that he's nice. Because of what he did, that wasn't a nice thing to do. But he's genuinely a really caring and funny guy, and anyone would be happy to spend time with him, you know?
So he didn't need to do that.
Yeah, basically he didn't need to do that.
So those are situations where someone outrightly lies, which we both agree are bad.
That's bad.
But within relationships, I feel like men can overpromise.
And underdeliver.
And let me not lie, if there's one thing that I cannot stand
is for a man
to overpromise and underdeliver. Because like I'm always telling you, I did not ask you to make these promises. You opened your mouth and you said you wanted to do this and you're going to do this. So when you don't do it, it really pisses me off because you didn't have to promise these things. And that's, I think, what really annoys me in relationships. When I get the feeling that you're not a man of your word, whether that's you'll say, oh, okay, babe, we're going to be going out on dates, and then you never make any effort. Or you're the kind of guy who says, I'm going to have this business, and I'm going to be rich one day, and then you do nothing. You don't work, you don't plan, you don't make any visible progress towards that. I find it such a huge turnoff.
So if a man is making promises to you, because I know there are women who currently are awaiting that promise, are awaiting the fruition of promises that have been made. How long do you think a woman should give it before she says, you know what, man, you scammed me?
Gosh, it depends on the promise itself. I mean, there are some things you can't just wait.
Say for example, I tell you, babe, I'm going to buy you a house one day, okay? How long do you give me now to say, okay, by the time I said it to when we have bought the house?
I mean, a house is a huge investment, so that one is decades.
Okay. That one you can give it like 10 years.
Yeah. But if you're with a man and you're living together, and he says, I'm going to do right by you. I'm going to make sure we get married. We won't just continue living together. Then that one, the clock is ticking. That one, it can't be decades.
So you have to give a timeline. So, okay, fine. You're saying we're going to get married by when?
Exactly. Or as the man and the one who is leading this relationship, what timeline are you thinking? So that we can see if we're aligned on the timelines.
Yeah.
Then we can be clear. Maybe it's just a situation of we're on different pages. But now when a guy says, like, I'm going to be doing this, I'm going to do this by this date, then your word needs to mean something.
But don't you think also on some level, there is a hidden amount of expectation the woman has based off her own timeline? Like, for instance, you can sit back and say, you know what, I want to get married, let's say, in the next 2 years. And this guy at that point is probably saying, okay, why 2 years? We could wait until, 3 years, or maybe until we are financially stable, then do it.
Yes.
Like, so.
Then say that. The issue is if you said yes 2 years, if the man says yes 2 years and then it's not 2 years, like no one forced you. If you disagree, say you disagree. But don't say something knowing full well that's not what you want.
But you do understand that as the man, if I disagree, I disappoint you. And that's the one thing that man is probably not wanting to do. That if I disagree, you will feel bad. If I disagree, you'll feel like, oh my gosh, this is not working with my timeline. I'm bouncing. I'm going to a next guy. All of these emotions run in the guy's head. So his first instinct is to always say, okay, Sawa, I'll get that done for you. Yeah. But then he will do that with the hopes that somewhere within those 2 years,
oh my God,
you can be able to align, or he's going to change your mind on some level.
I would rather we disagree now than me being fooled into believing you're going to be a man of your word or follow through with what you say. Like, I would rather we disagree now than to end up after 2 years, the guy says, well, actually, I didn't want this. And it'll be like, the past 2 years have been a lie. I do feel men sometimes put pressure on themselves to say things so that they look a certain way to their women.
We put pressure on ourselves to live up to the expectation of the woman we want or already have. Sometimes the expectations women have put forward to us, even without you guys knowing you're doing it to us, right? For instance, if you enjoy going to 5-star restaurants and I met you, let's say, in a 5-star restaurant and you keep going to 5-star, that's where you meet your friends. That's where you do all of these things.
That's the standard.
That's the standard you have. And I'm there. We love each other, but I know I can't keep up with a 5-star restaurant. I know I can do maybe a KFC, I can do a Java, but I can't keep up with taking you to Sankara every 2 days.
Yeah.
So at that point, I will end up feeling like I need to catch up. And I think it can be a good thing or a bad thing. It can be a good thing in that a man can be forced to step up his game. Because of that. And number two, it can be a bad thing because a man may literally drown in trying to impress that woman and then end up becoming broke and basically down and out.
So there's obviously promises or things you just shouldn't overpromise with. But do you think there are some promises that men should make?
Yes.
Like?
A promise of fidelity is important. You need to make that promise and stick to it. You need to put a timeline on how long the dating phase is going to be.
Really? I think so.
I think men should do that. And why I say this, right, is because of clarity of where this is going. You know, there are people who date, but they don't want to be serious.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, let's date. We are together.
Yes.
But
we're
you know
exclusive,
what?
but this is not.
But this is not going anywhere.
We're not going down the aisle.
We are not going down. Now, if we've agreed on that, that's all well and good. Yeah. But if we know we are together and we keep having these conversations of future life, oh, we'll have this number of kids, oh, we'll live in this is the kind of neighborhood we want to live. You're starting to talk plans. Families have met, things like that. You need to give a timeline. You must. Because then already that woman is investing her emotions, her mental into this plan that, you guys have been dreaming about. And women being the dreamers that you are, you will dream about it. I know of women who, for example, when they know they're getting married, they live in an apartment, but she's already driving around in estates looking at houses saying, that's the kind of house I want.
Yeah, some women do that.
Yeah.
Other women are the opposite. But like you're saying, you should promise to be serious about the relationship.
Yes. Provide, protect, be faithful, and also give a timeline. I believe everything should have timelines. Think of it in terms of when you start a business. What do you tell yourself? In a year, this is where I want to be.
Like a business plan.
Yeah. In 2 years, this is where my profits I want it to be. That's how seriously you commit to a business when you start it. Why not your relationship? Why not say, in a year, I want to be engaged. In 2 years, I want to have married.
Now you're telling the girl.
Yeah, now you're telling the girl. By year 4, I want us to have our first baby. Yeah. By year 5, I want us to have started a mortgage. Like, you need to have. That's why people are asked, what's your 5-year plan?
Actually, you should give me a 5-year
My 5-year plan.
For this
I have one. I do have a
should.
5-year plan.
I think it's very telling that you say you have a 5-year plan, but you've not shared it with me. And one of the things we discussed in couples counseling was the fact that Mike does not share some things.
Yes.
He keeps some things to himself.
First of all, that wasn't couples counseling. It was the beginning of
couples counseling.
Of booking the couples counseling.
And it was so intense.
But it was intense. Shiko was just like, oh my gosh.
Afterwards, I wanted to
You
cry.
cried.
It was great. Like, I'm so glad we did it and we're going to continue. But it just felt so heavy. I guess this is how people feel like after a good therapy session.
Yes.
You've just revived or uncovered all of these huge emotions. And then after the session, you're kind of just
But I feel
reeling.
like we understood each other on a different level. Like what our pastor said, and big shout out to you, Pastor Mike. What he told me was Shiko wants to feel included in plans and processes and decisions that I make, right? And what he told Shiko was, you have to understand, men think in projects.
Yeah.
This project and that project and that project. At least for me, I know that's I'm really bad at multitasking.
Yeah, like he will hyper focus.
I will hyper focus on one thing.
On one thing at a time, which is frustrating because life is not one thing at a time. So I'm asking him about thing 2 and he's not, I don't want to think about that until we're done with thing 1.
Thing 1.
Yeah.
So now, for example, my hyper focus is on our marriage and our date. And now that's where my mind has shifted to. Yeah. And once that is done, I know I'll get another thing to hyper focus about.
Yes, for sure.
And it will work that way. So you can imagine that I know sometimes the timelines are not working out in terms of what time you want, right? Vis-a-vis how I'm doing one project at a time, and probably it could happen faster. Yeah. And that's what I mean by when I'm asking, how long would you give it before you feel like, this guy is just playing around with me? Yeah. Because you do have that expectation, right?
Yeah, and that's why communication is important, because now from that counseling session, I understood it's not just that you're not thinking about thing number 2. It's that you really feel like you want to achieve and be successful and done conclusively with thing number 1, and then repeat that success with thing number 2. It's not that it doesn't matter.
Yes.
Which is where my frustration was coming from. It felt like the things that mattered to me didn't matter to you. But it's just about the way you had ordered them in your head.
In my head.
In terms of how you will address them.
Yes.
But yeah, that's why talking is important, and including me in your thought process is important. So then I know, this is what's going on with him.
So based off that, and I'm glad that you've told me that, moving forward, and I promise it on this podcast, I'll always include you in my thought process.
Yes.
Yeah? But moving forward, in terms of those promises, what do you say to women, for example, who are in marriages? They're already in it now. Like I said, I do based off this man's word, this man's promises. And because those promises, I believe, play a big part in a woman making a decision of, I can see where he's going and I choose him. So you're already in it. And this person now feels, she's mine now. I don't need to work on those those promises anymore.
Yeah, that is really sad. That's like saying someone going back on the vows you took when you were getting married, because those are promises you made. Actually, you vowed, which is even deeper than a promise. You vowed sickness and in health, better or worse, rich or poor. So that's really difficult. And I think communication is important, because if the man is going back on his promises, like, there must be a reason. Either they pull the promises just out of the air, is that what it is? Or has he lost the ability to fulfill those promises? Is it a loss of desire or a loss of ability to fulfill the promises?
Just like we discussed some time back when I told you about how there are men who rush to get you pregnant as a way of saying, so now she can't go anywhere because she has my baby. But there are also men who would put a ring on it, and now their mindset switches. Now they feel there's no rush anymore. I know I told her that I'm going to build a house for us and the family, but where's the rush? Like, I don't want to do it anymore. Or a man who says, now you're my wife, I don't need to take you out on date nights like I promised anymore. I don't need to be buying you fancy things anymore. Now I can just, sit back and say, see, I have a wife. And then they totally switch. And I've heard of such stories happen where couples switch after marriage. And change.
That is really weird to me, because it means you are just doing things, both of you, whatever it is for the girl, whatever it is for the guy, you are just doing things to get the other person.
Yes.
And now that you've gotten the other person, you just stop. Were you really in love? Did you really love them?
I think I used this in a former episode where I said, why campaign when you've already won the election? That's the mentality, basically.
That mentality, to me, says you were not actually, from the bottom of your heart, doing these things because you loved the other person. It was a campaign.
Yeah, it was a campaign, quite literally.
So, of course, now once the campaign is over, it's like advertising. Once the campaign is over, you stop putting money. You stop putting money in.
Yeah.
But I feel like even if you promise to take me out on dates, I would hope you would do it also just because you love me. Not because I'm going to leave you if you stop, but because you love to see me happy.
The problem with a lot of men is we feel, if I do it because it makes you happy, you will stop seeing or enjoying what makes me happy, because now we'll always keep doing what makes you happy. Guys, trust me, I know you're giving me that look, but
I'm
guys
looking
have
at him
weird.
Like, wait, what?
Yeah, guys are weird. Like, there are people who actually say it. Like, if you give her everything she wants, in fact, the word is wanakuwa manga. That's what they say.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
First of all, women are not children to think, oh, I'm going to spoil my wife. No, like, you're not raising your wife. You are having a relationship. That's something you would say about a child. Like, oh, let me not spoil. No, you do everything. You want to make your woman so happy that she's like, that's why I married him. That's why I'm with him. I don't think the risk is, now what? She'll be too in love. What is the risk?
I'm just a messenger here, so don't shoot the messenger.
I'm shooting it with my eyes, like I'm throwing mad daggers, because I'm like, no. And I feel like men say that because they are afraid of, what if I go all out and it's not enough? What if I go all out and
then she spends my money on another man?
Yeah.
Or I buy her a car so that she can drive around with other men in her car.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah,
do it with your chest. Love your woman with your full chest.
Yeah, that is
true.
Don't
overpromise.
That is true. And in fact, for men, just know this, that if you don't, someone else will.
Okay.
That's just the way life goes. And don't forget, by the way, you can share your stories with us. You can slide into either one of our DMs. My Instagram page is Mike_Mondo.
Mine is at Shiko Guru.
Okay, go ahead. Just drop a DM. Tell us if you're going through the same thing, where you promised something and you're waiting for the fulfillment of that promise to this day. This is the book of Joshua, and I want to flip it a bit to women. I know we've talked a lot about men making promises.
Yeah.
But promises from women to men.
I'm even trying to think what promises. Like,
yes.
I can't even think of, have I ever promised anything?
No. Don't think about it necessarily as me talking about you.
Oh.
But women have promised and under-delivered.
Yeah, for instance,
there are women who promise their men that, you know what, I will make a good wife. And she does everything that a good wife does prior to the marriage. After we get married,
ukishaingia
box, and for one reason or another, maybe she's chasing you because she's seen you've got money, or you are this affluent individual who can give her the life that she wants, and so you pretend to be a certain way so that you get into that space, and then once you're there, you change. For example, women who can look at a man and say, you know what, that guy looks like a very good guy, me, I'm going to get his baby. And then you get that guy's baby. Kwanza, you suka him. That guy feels like, oh my God, I'll be the best wife for you. Minute you get her pregnant, she becomes a devil.
Why? Jeez, that is so dramatic.
Do you want to say it doesn't happen?
First of all, I personally have never known any woman who has trapped a man with a baby. I feel like men overestimate.
You don't believe it happens?
I do not know of a single woman who has chosen to get pregnant for the sole reason
of getting
a man.
They exist.
And
I can tell you for a fact, they exist.
Okay, but let's stick to the promises.
Yes, we're sticking to that. But those things have happened to me. Yeah. I will not say which one of the two did it to me, but I was told that she had intimated to a person we mutually knew that, imagine this guy thinks I'm going to wash dishes for him. See, I have his baby, Allah. You know, like those kind of statements.
The question is, was she doing dishes before?
She does it at her mother's house.
But still, when she was in your bachelor pad.
When she wanted to make herself something, she would do it, but not all the time.
Yeah, so maybe you thought she would change until now because you know you're in a long-term relationship, you're living together, but I think you got what you ordered. Like you.
What do you mean I got what I ordered?
The woman didn't change. You just thought she would change for you, but it was the same woman you met in the beginning, the same woman you ended up with. You just thought that somewhere along the way.
But you have to understand though, how do we judge? In fact, for people like us, how do we judge a good woman? We judge them by their behaviors at home. For us as millennial men, we do that. We see, how are you at home? Even if it's in your parents' house.
Okay.
You cook, you clean, you make sure everyone is okay, like you're a nurturer at home.
Let's
what changes? What changes? Hold on. This is what I'm getting to. What changes with women who, in their homes, oh my God, spectacular. In fact, you go visit them, the way she's taking care of everything is spectacular. And so that is the unintentional promise you're selling me as your man, that, oh my gosh, you can do these things.
The unintentional promise.
Yeah.
Or it's your assumption.
Why is it an assumption?
Yeah, because I didn't tell you that I'm going to be cooking like the way I cook for my dad. That's not what I said.
So then how will I know you can?
Promises have to be overt. It can't be like unintentional, because that could just be your assumption.
Really?
Yes. And okay, let's move away from...
How do you know a guy is a good guy? Don't women make assumptions all the time? You look at a man and you say, oh, I know what this guy is about. So aren't you guys making assumptions when you do that with us?
I guess so. That is true. Like if I saw you behaving like a good guy, I would assume you're a good guy.
Yeah.
So you're saying...
If I saw you behaving like a wife, I would assume you're a good wife.
And that my promise to you is that I will continue.
Yes. Just like you'd expect that if I'm a good guy, you expect me to continue being a good guy.
Yes, that would be the expectation.
Yeah, that would be the expectation.
Yes.
So if that's the case, so what happens with women?
What do you mean what happens with women?
When that's the case, when you make us that promise, though it's unintentional, but it's right there.
Let's even move away from like the parents' house, because I, for example, have not lived in my parents' house since I was 16. But let's give another example. You see me behaving a certain way.
Yeah.
And so you take it as, okay, this is what she's showing me now.
Yes.
Will continue
exactly.
after.
Yeah.
I think honestly, I don't think anyone should behave very differently from the way they will behave after you're together. Because otherwise someone will be like, that's not what I ordered. Like,
exactly. And that's what I mean. I feel like be consistent.
Yeah.
If you behave that way at home or wherever, behave the same way with me. If I go to a strip club, and I get myself a stripper for a wife, I know she's going to be on a pole every night.
You should. Right? That's where you met her.
I know men are going to throw money at her. She's going to give men lap dances. So I'm getting exactly what I want. But there are these things that a person does that are a reflection of who you are. And in that space, overtly, you are saying that I am a good person. You're presenting yourself in a good way. So if you change, aren't you in a way
breaking a promise
or being deceptive about your intentions?
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
Yeah.
I mean, and we should not change. I think consistency is important. You have to be the person who I fell in love with.
Yes.
Otherwise, we'll get into the relationship and it'll be like, who is this person even?
Yes.
So I agree. I hadn't thought of promises in the sense that, you know, there could be unspoken promises.
Yes.
Based on behavior that someone may feel have been broken if they don't they don't follow through into the relationship.
Yes. If I every time I walk past you, I slap your bum. And I do it, this is clockwork. Every time. I've never said it that I will be slapping your bum every morning.
You never promised
I never promised
slapping my bum every morning.
But one day I stopped slapping your bum in the morning.
I'll wonder whose bum you're slapping.
Exactly. Thank you.
Clearly you like to slap a bum in the morning.
Yeah, because clearly you like it. So what's changed?
Yeah.
And so I think those promises can transcend. They can also be overt. I feel like if you're in a relationship, you should be able to maintain a certain level of consistency even when you're not feeling it, so that it feels like you're keeping your word, you're keeping whatever idea your partner has of you. And so by that virtue, you're keeping your word.
Keep it consistent. Like keep it 100, be the same person that you fell in love with.
Yeah.
So that you don't feel like you've been bamboozled.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just like the way I love your smile and I love how you laugh. You know, you're a bubbly person.
Yes.
And then when you're not bubbly, I literally I get flat-footed. I wonder,
you get very upset actually.
Yeah, I go through a self-analysis. Nowadays, I don't get upset, if you noticed. Nowadays, I do a self-analysis first. What have I done? And then once I go through it and I feel like, okay, I don't think I've done anything wrong, I ask myself again, what have I done that Shiko may have perceived is wrong? And then after I'm done through that checklist, then I know that's an external thing.
I actually know of one marriage, and I knew them before they were married and know them now. And this is really actually sad for me to say because it's the woman who I knew her before, right? Before they were married. And she was bubbly. She always used to laugh. Oh my gosh. Kwanzaa laugh at his jokes. And then they got married, and within the first 2 years, she completely changed.
She lost her glow and
completely. And obviously, I don't know the ins of that marriage, but I have heard him point it out, like say, and other people say, you know, his friends say, wait, what the hell happened? Like, she used to like having us over, now she doesn't, you know. She used to laugh with us, like we all used to laugh together, and now she wants us out of your house.
Yeah.
And I feel in that situation, the guy honestly feels like he was cheated.
Yeah, like he was scammed into this.
Like he was scammed because he would never have dated the woman who she is today.
Now.
Yeah. But you never know. He could have done some nonsense.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
It could have been his fault.
Yeah.
So getting into those promises, and you've made promises. So let's talk about verbal ones. And as Mike, I've come to you and I've told you, babe, like for example, one of the biggest promises I've made Shiko is that I'll buy her a fridge. Okay? And she knows exactly which one it is. I know exactly which shop it's at and how much it costs. Okay? So I've made that promise. It's not kept year one, it's not kept year two. Do you believe that promises, when not kept, some promises when not kept, should literally end that relationship and say, you know what, now this is too much?
Yeah, I mean, there are some promises, maybe not a fridge, but some other big ones that if not kept can be deal breakers. But I think for me, it would be the accumulation of many things that you say you're going to do and you don't do.
Yeah.
And all of those things would build up and speak to your character.
Yes.
As a man, and it would start to affect how I see you as a man. If you're constantly making promises and not keeping them, I will question your character and your integrity, because then what are you doing? Or even your wisdom. I would question you as a man. Like, are you a man of substance because you're not a man of your word, it would make me wonder about your character if you're constantly making promises that you can't keep. Yeah. Are you a liar? Are you just incapable of working hard enough to achieve these things? And this is gonna sound bad, but so you're not intentionally lying, but you're just unable.
You're unable.
Yeah.
To live up to the promises that you made.
Exactly, but you're not wise enough to stop making the promises.
Yes.
So I feel like over time, if you keep on doing this, it'll make me question, and that then may lead to a deal breaker situation. But if it's just you said you're gonna get a fridge and for a good reason it didn't happen, that's different. So
honesty, in case I'm unable to meet a promise that has been made, honesty is key. To come out clean and say, I know I promised this, but unfortunately, I won't be able to do this.
Exactly. Just come out clean, like you're saying. And I feel like men are more embarrassed, or I don't know if it's an ego thing, but admitting that they are unable to fulfill a promise, sometimes they find so hard that they would rather keep the illusion going.
That illusion can lead to a deal breaker. That's a point, actually. I think now I've understood. So, may as well make small promises that you can achieve instead of making big promises that you know you may not be able to live up to.
Yeah, but obviously we all want someone who is ambitious.
Yeah.
And sets ambitious goals, which is great, but you cannot constantly be over-promising and under-delivering.
Okay. So one of the biggest promises people make is when they take vows. At the altar, rather, you say, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, till death do us part, all of those vows. There's something that I remember during counseling where our pastor asked me something to do with that. It wasn't necessarily what vows I was going to say, but he was like, don't say the vows before you're at the altar so that she doesn't know, what you're going to say. Keep it a secret. But do you believe vows should be taken the traditional way? Or this new way for making promises, of writing a whole speech of how we fell in love and how we walked on the beach and I knew you are the one?
Well, you see, that's not even basically drink for each other and say, I remember the day I saw you. That's not a vow. That's actually not a promise. You're just telling your love story.
Yes.
And then sometimes modern vows are more about how you feel.
Yes.
When I'm with you, this is how I feel, or you make me feel like this, or this is why you're so special. None of those are vows. I believe in actually making vows. Like, I vow to honor you, to protect you, to be with you through thick and through thin. Those are vows. So I do want to have proper vows where we make promises to each other as opposed to just telling each other how we feel. I know how you feel. I know you think I'm awesome. I know you know how I feel. So that's not the time. I mean, you can also do that. You can say, I love you so much. You make me feel like this. I remember the first time I saw you. But then now get to the point where you say, okay,
where
now
I actually say.
Yeah.
So would you rather I write down the vows, the promises, or would you rather I say, I, Mike Mondo, take you, Shiko, to be my lawfully wedded wife, through thick and thin, for richer, for poorer, through sickness and in health, till death do us part. So help me God.
I like that. I mean, I like the traditional ones. I
one.
think they've been like
they
that.
They covered everything.
Exactly. And they were written the way they were written for a reason, and they've stood the test of time for a reason. Yeah. If you want to add other stuff, that's awesome. But I do feel like I would love to hear those particular,
I've got something I want to tell you that I'm appreciative of you. You keep me in check with promises that I make to you. You do a very good job at reminding me to do XYZ. Because sometimes I think a lot about a lot of things. And sometimes I feel like I forget that I said I was going to do something. And then it hits me and then it gets me flat-footed. And it's already time for us to do that. Like right now, for example, the whole of today, I've been thinking about, I made a promise that we'll do date night on Wednesday. So that's been the only thing in my head. And so I've been thinking about that. Wednesday, I take you out on a date. Those vows that I make to you, I want to tell you that I'm thankful and grateful that you always tell me and remind me of them. You don't judge me for some of them not being achieved, but rather you remind me and you tell me, babe, you said we would do XYZ. What's going on? So kudos for that.
Thank Thank you. I feel sometimes nervous or anxious because women have been made to feel like we nag. Mm-hmm. But I am glad that you don't mind me pointing out certain things because I think you also hold yourself to a certain standard. That's number one. Number two, I don't want to be upset because it'll get to me.
Yeah.
And then not tell you why I'm sad. Mm-hmm. So I feel like pointing it out, as long as you don't perceive it as nagging, actually helps the relationship. Because then I won't be sulking in a corner because I'm thinking it's Wednesday and
what's happening,
but I'm not saying anything.
And you're not saying anything.
When maybe all I needed to do was just
remind
say,
me, babe, what happened to date night?
Like last week when I said
Bad Boys movie thing. Yeah.
He said he was gonna take us for a movie on Friday evening.
Yeah. I totally forgot.
Yeah, and so Friday evening, as we were eating our fries and sausages at home, I'm like, weren't we supposed to go for a movie today?
Yeah. And you see, once it hit me, that's why I was telling you, oh my gosh, we can still go.
Yeah. So now he's there looking at
movie timings.
And I'm like, it is 8 p.m. I'm in my pajamas. Like, I'm not leaving the house.
As hell.
It was cold.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm glad. And you can do the same to me. If you feel like there's promises I've made that I'm not fulfilling, or a lack of consistency somewhere, I would appreciate, instead of you keeping it in
and festering.
Yeah, and festering to say.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for being my accountability partner.
You're welcome.
Kudos.
Very
well,
welcome.
That's been it on Heart to Heart with Mike and Shiko. Oh my gosh, it's a brand new month. It's the beginning of my birthday month.
Almost the beginning
of my birthday month.
Yes.
So feel free. I take gifts of all kinds. And babe, no pressure.
Pressure for what?
I know. Shiko has this thing where she needs to know. She always asks me, what do you want for your birthday? Yeah. I don't know.
I've gotten really that you don't know. We'll see.
I'm one of those guys. So
underwear is always an option.
No. You got
socks.
And babe, I've grown a bit big.
So now underwear.
The underwear are really, really like
tight. That's how we like
them.
So
every once in a while I have to go to the bathroom and breathe. Yeah. Anyway, we'll say Kwaheri. Thank you so much for joining us and keeping us company. This has been the Heart to Heart podcast. My name's Mike Mondo.
And I'm Shiko.
Yes, we shall catch you again next Sunday. Yes. And don't forget to follow us on our social media pages, of course, at Shikonguru on Instagram, myself, Mike_Mondo. So have a fantastic Sunday. And remember, we are still rejecting.
Yes, reject 2024.